And I'll answer this with total candor and some level of specificity for the benefit of the young people in the audience who haven't decided what you're going to do with your life. When I was younger, in high school, for example, in junior high school, I loved music, and I was good at it, at least as measured against all the competition. And when I was getting out of high school and thinking about going on to university, I had 6 academic scholarships, but 9 music scholarships. I even had the potential of going to France to study classical saxophone. So I thought about this very seriously. And I looked in the mirror one day. I remember it as yesterday. I was 16 years old. And back then, there were no CDs, as you might imagine. There were no tapes. It was all these old records. And if you were a jazz musician, it didn't matter how good you were, how famous you were, you had to play the clubs to make a living. You could not make a living just on your records alone. So, in essence, if you decided to become a jazz musician, you were making a policy, and you couldn't do concert tours. That was only for rock and roll. So you had to make a conscious decision that you were going to spend way over half the time being up all night and sleeping half the day. Your days and nights were going to mix up. And I decided that it was worth it only if I thought I could be the greatest jazz saxophone player who ever lived. And I looked in the mirror when I was 16, and I had to face the fact that if I worked 40 or 50 or 60 or 70 hours a week, and I used to play 12 hours a day till my lips would bleed, I would still never be the greatest that ever was. I could be really good. I could make a living, but it wasn't worth giving up the prospect of a normal life and having a family, putting myself at risk of drug addiction and everything else. Just it does crazy things to you, staying up all night and sleeping half the day every single day. Then the other thing I thought about doing, which I really was interested in, was being a doctor, because my mother was a nurse anesthetist, and I'd been going to surgery since I was 12 years old. And I was the only kid I knew that was never repulsed by the sight of blood. I never got upset when I watched people being operated on. I was always fascinated by it. I thought I'd be really good at it, but I didn't think I'd be the greatest surgeon that ever was. And somehow when I was 16, with no rational basis, I thought I could do what I wound up doing better than anybody else. And I had no rational basis. Nobody in my family had ever been in politics. Nobody in my family had ever gotten a college degree before. But I knew that I was obsessively interested in people, in politics, and in policy. And I think if you want to be a good public servant, you got to care about all three. And I just thought I'd be good at it. Then when I was 22, I got really discouraged. We had 1968, we had riots in the streets. You all read about it. There's a lot being written about 68 and 69 now, the 40th anniversary of Woodstock and all that. And I briefly considered becoming a journalist and trying to chronicle events rather than participating in them, because I got so discouraged and cynical. And then I decided it was a cop-out, and I'd suck it up and give it a go. And I got lucky, and the rest is history. But I would advise all the young people here to try to figure out something you care about. Most of us love doing what we're best at. But better to do something that you care about even than something you're better at. Do something, keep in mind, if you have any options for what you do with your life, any options, you are in a group of not more than 1 or 2% of all the people who've ever walked across planet Earth. Most people have worked to put food on their table, to keep their children alive, to keep body and soul together. Most people never had choices. So if you have a choice, Make one that you love that'll make you happy. Because if you do, then you'll be like me and you'll never think you're working. All of a sudden you'll wake up one day like I am. Now, most of my life I was the youngest person doing whatever I was doing. Now I'm the oldest guy in every room. I don't know where the time went. Why? Because I never felt I was working. Every day was a gift. If you have the choice, make it a good one. Thank you.